Share screen.
Got it.
I think we're up to number 4. We completed number 3 last week, unless you guys want to recap on that or
no, we can just continue on, I think.
Ready.
So I'll go ahead and start, Joey. It has already been said that you believe you cannot control fear because you yourself made it, and your belief in it seems to render it out of your control. Yet any attempt to resolve the error through attempting the mastery of fear is useless. In fact, it asserts the power of fear by the very assumption that it need be mastered. The true resolution rests entirely on mastering through love. In the interim, however, the sense of conflict is inevitable, since you have placed yourself in a position where you believe in the power of what does not exist. I love that. Does anybody have anything they want to say about it?
I'm just scanning through it again. That was a great paragraph.
It was. I love the last 2 sentences where it says a true resolution rests entirely on mastery through love. In the interim, however, the sense of conflict is inevitable, since you have placed yourself in a position where you believe in the power of what does not exist.
That one's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it?
It's very self-explanatory. And it always keeps coming back to, and I know you guys are noticing this, that every resolution the Course in Miracles offers is always the atonement. It's always see through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, see the oneness of God, see that there is no separation, and there's nothing to fear. I don't know. I went into a little bit of a tailspin the other day because I heard, because I got friends in Puerto Rico, that the temperature went up to 125 degrees. In the Florida Keys, the ocean temperature was 96 degrees. And I thought to myself, holy shit, the entire ocean's ecosystem, all the coral reefs are going to die, blah, 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 blah. I went on this whole thing thinking catastrophically, of course. And I stopped myself and said, my thoughts are meaningless. And the place I always seem to go back to is that nothing happens that is not outside the will of God. Like nothing happens. Even if it's like this horrible thing, there's something else that's following behind it, or some other understanding or realization that's going to emerge from it. So I began to sort of wind myself down off the ledge after I heard all those things, because it was 106 here in Arkansas today, which is I for the years I've been here, I've never experienced it this hot. But the same thing still holds true. Is I have to, in my mind, put it this way, I'm choosing to believe that there's a loving force behind all of this. I can't see the full picture. I can't see down the road 100 years from now, but I can say that I do believe that it's all done through a loving force. And time will tell the ramifications, and perhaps humanity will get their shit together and do something extraordinary, which is what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I didn't hear about any of that. I have heard that it's been record temperatures in many places. I keep hearing stuff about the Canadian fires are still happening. I don't know if it was a conspiracy theory or not, but I've heard stuff about the the ground thawing, releasing methane gas,
No, that's a
coming
truism.
up, creating, these fires and stuff. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but like you said, it's in God's control, and what's meant to happen is happening. And what comes after is what's meant to happen after. We just need to live this moment, this day, and be grateful we're still doing all right.
Very true. But it's true the Arctic is melting, and it is true that methane gas is being released. And it's also true that, different bacterias and viruses that haven't been on the planet for tens of thousands of years are now going to be on the planet because the
Interesting.
ice sheets are melting that will expose all that into the atmosphere. So it's going to be very interesting to see. We'll live to see it, which will be curious. And personally, I kind of think people are going to start waking up spiritually and waking up to the need for union of all diverse cultures and people to move through these periods that we've collectively created. And that, I think, will be the blessing in it.
Yeah, it's a shame it takes major disasters for us humans to come together and realize we're doing dumb shit.
Yeah, well, for whatever reason, the human condition seems to be a condition that learns through suffering.
Yeah.
And I know I've learned the most lessons through my own suffering. So it must be how we do it. But China and America has just met for the first time in like years as the tensions politically and geopolitically, rise up between the two countries. But they are coming together to work together on climate. So that is a positive. That is a positive.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Hope it goes well.
Yeah, me too.
Next page.
Yep.
Nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in one is to deny the other. Fear is really nothing, and love is everything. Whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished. What you believe is true for you. In this sense, the separation has occurred, and to deny it is merely to use denial inappropriately. However, to concentrate on error is only a further error. The initial corrective procedure is to recognize temporarily that there is a problem, but only as an indication that immediate correction is needed. This establishes a state of mind in which the atonement can be accepted without delay. It should be emphasized, however, that ultimately no compromise is possible between everything and nothing. Time is essentially a device by which all compromise in this respect can be given up. It only seems to be abolished by degrees because time itself involves intervals that do not exist. Miscreation made this necessary as a corrective device. The statement, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life," needs only one slight correction to be meaningful in this context. He gave it to his only begotten Son. Wow.
Okay, that last line has kind of thrown me. Let me see. So God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. He gave it to his only begotten Son. Okay, that makes much more sense now.
It starts off strong. Nothing and everything cannot coexist.
So the nothingness is fear, and the love is everything.
Mhm.
So there's either love or fear in any situation based upon, in my belief system, the focus of our minds. We can create any scenario to be quite fearful or any scenario to be quite loving. And if we're focusing on the love, we enter more into that atonement state. And if we focus on the fear, we are literally increasing the separation and the division.
Yeah.
Because
Fully.
it says what you believe is true for you, meaning if we believe that fear is the truth about a situation, it is true. And that is then the separation has occurred in our reality. And to deny it is merely to use denial inappropriately. It says, whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished, which simply means whenever love enters, fear is abolished.
Yep.
You know, for me, what it is a attachment, which is going to be curious to talk about, an attachment to my vision for my life. Like I'm attached to the vision of my life. I can see how I'm directing my life to flow in a certain direction right now. And I'm attached to that. It's like I want that to be created. And because I'm attached to that, I have fear that it won't be, rather than just being in that state of surrender. Like, if this is God's best use for me, then bring it on. But if I'm attached to it and I want my vision to manifest, because I've got a big vision right now. I just got off a call today with a national PR company that wants to represent me and get me published in Forbes and all the CNN and all these big kind of outlet stations and get published. But I'm thinking, first of all, I'm not ready for that because I'm not prepared. The back end's not prepared. But I have this whole vision of how I want things to flow now and to evolve now. Is anyone else like super attached to your vision, and so you don't want anything to change, and you have fear based upon that attachment? Because that's what's happening inside of me.
I more or less have my dreams. I don't have all of the in between. Like, I don't have each step laid out or thought out. So in a sense, yeah, I worry about bringing my dreams or my goals to fruition, but having attachment for each step there, not necessarily.
Okay, because it's really important to have as much of a strategy in place as you can, because then you don't know you don't know what to put action into. You don't know where to put your chi into. So once you start to design it step by step by step, then you know, okay, this is where I put my energy now. And then once that's complete, the next step and the next step. It's made a huge difference for me.
Oh, I kind of went backwards then, because Sunday I woke up kind of feeling depressed. Took me a little bit to figure out why, but I essentially canceled everything this week. A call earlier, and one more call this week is all I really have on my schedule that I chose to keep doing because it's stuff that just fills me with joy. But I essentially stopped, paused, and realized that I've been working so hard that it's became work. It's not a joy. It's not a passion. And I essentially had to stop and take the time to enjoy life and remember why I'm doing all that I'm doing, because it got to the point where I was getting frustrated and I was struggling with making things happen, and I couldn't figure out why. And it came to the realization that I was being my own resistance. I was, as I like to describe, I was that, Saturday morning cartoon with the pudgy little kid with a fishing pole in his back pocket and a Twinkie dangling in front of him, just a running after it and getting nowhere. I had to stop and let that Twinkie come back, swing back into my grip. So yeah, I think that's part of the process, though, is you can't push too hard or it's not going to happen whatsoever. So therein lies that duality where I started, I guess, fearing that I wasn't gonna make it happen and I was failing and all of that. And I needed to take that step back and come back into that heart center is what I kept saying, is I was out of alignment. I'm not working from the heart. I canceled my Reiki call Sunday night because I wasn't in the heart space. It wasn't right. So I just stepped back from everything so I could come back into alignment.
I know. I'll share this with you, Joe, because there's been times when I haven't felt like seeing clients. I look at my roster. Like tomorrow, I've got 5 clients. Friday, I've got like 6. Thursday, I've got 5. And I looked at it and I thought, I don't want to do this today. Like I don't want to do this. But then by actually doing the work and showing up and facilitating people, I actually came back to myself. And I was like joyful at the end of it. I was resisted at the beginning and joyful at the end. So the conclusion I came to for me is that I'm not happy if I'm not working and facilitating people. Whenever whenever I get really grumpy, Robert says, you need to see more clients. Because it helps me return back to myself. I can leave the sessions inspired. And I don't know if that happens for you, but I'm supporting you in really looking at that. Like next time that happens, show up for the session. And
I have, that has happened. That has happened a couple times to me where I didn't feel like doing the session and I essentially made myself. But there was something different about this Sunday. So like I said, I woke up and I was feeling like that all day. I ended up going out disc golfing, got in nature. I sat with what was going on and I eventually figured out, what was going on, but I felt called to just step back. And this was the first time really since I've been doing all of the Reiki stuff that I stepped back and didn't force myself forward, which it was a new turn for me. So I do know where you're coming from because there are times where it's just like you said, you look at the schedule, like, I don't feel like doing that today. I want to go do something else. And I essentially, kicked myself in the butt and went and did what I was, supposed to do. And it was great. Like you said, it stamped me back into alignment and put me back, feeling right. But there's just something about this Sunday that was different. It wasn't.
I can almost bet money that it was a spirit attachment issue.
There's been a lot going on in my world. I won't share all of that on on the recording, but yeah.
No, but it feels intuitively like did you feel like you were just depressed for no reason? You're walking around wearing a wet wool blanket?
Sort of. It was a little more intense than that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's oftentimes is spirit attachment. It happens in dream states. It happens oftentimes when you're working with someone energetically. You'll take on an entity from them, and one of these days we'll get together. I'll show you how to clear that for yourself, because it'll save you a lot of time. It's a good one, isn't it, B?
It's lovely, and it's so quick.
And so quick, so fast. It's like 10 minutes, you're done.
And that just made me realize I have one that I should have did, but totally forgot about. I even have it saved in my favorites on my phone, so it's quick access to it. And things happen for a reason, though.
Yeah, well, now you know. I mean, if that happens again, do a spirit detachment and see if you can't clear it, because I'll guarantee that's what was happening for you.
This paragraph is really talking to me as well, Gary, because it's what I was saying before about growing my business, including other people in it. I am fearful about that. I'm fearful because of past experiences where it just about sent me broke. So somehow I need to change that around from being fearful to being excited about including people.
Well, I know for me, one of the things that would happen for me when I would have other people I personally have never had success like having other people come in and do portions of my trainings or anything like that. Never. I've never had it. Every time I've attempted to do it, it's not been good. They came along and did substandard work or substandard coaching or training. So last time it happened, Robert just said to me, just do it on your own, because no one else, is going to show up and do it quite, like you would want it to be done. And so I did that. But then there's a place in where you come that pieces that you don't want to do or can't do very well, those pieces can be farmed out to other people, and it really does help. If you try to have someone be the front-facing person or a customer-facing individual, that is where you oftentimes will get into difficulty, because they'll never represent your business like you would represent it. So I've learned that to compartmentalize the tasks and farm those out to people, that's fine, because it's not a representation of my brand. Of course, I check the work, blah, 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 but they get it done. So start looking at what you could farm out and not be client facing. And I think it would be less scary for you, V. You probably already thought all that through, didn't you?
Yeah, and I have started farming things out, but even with that, I'm really fussy about who's doing it. Probably too fussy, because it still requires training people. I've got one lady who works for me, but she can only do 1 day a week, and if only she could do 2 or 3 days, it would be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, know this, that there's an art to keeping people inspired and keeping people happy, and therefore working more diligently to be accurate. So I would do little training videos, and that always helps, especially in areas where people are have a weak point. Do a training video instead of having to interface with them over a call or something like that. See if they can learn from a training video. And that has saved, I know, people that I've worked with that have a lot of responsibility, a lot of people working for them, that has saved them endless amounts of time. And then the training video is evergreen. So whether that person stays or goes, you still have the training video. Train someone else.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. I'll do number 6. Joey, are we good with number 5? Do you have anything else you want to say about that?
Oh no, I'm just popping a couple sentences down that really just warm my heart. It's that truth that I needed to hear, and I just want to write it down to help it stick a little better.
Yeah, it always sticks better for me. Oh wait, I have to write something down too.
Yeah, the first few lines in number 5, I absolutely love. They're great. A few great sentences there.
Yeah, I'll say. Okay, number 6. It should be especially noted that God has only one son. If all his creations are his sons, everyone must be an integral part of the whole sonship. I love that reframe on the distortion of Christianity. The sonship in its oneness transcends the sum of its parts. However, this is obscured as long as any of its parts is missing. That is why the conflict cannot ultimately be resolved until all parts of the sonship have returned. Only then can the meaning of wholeness in the true sense be understood. Any part of the sonship can believe in error or incompleteness if he so chooses. However, if he does so, he is believing in the existence of nothingness. The correction of this error is the atonement. Now, that has always confused me from the perspective that I remember this one verse in the Course in Miracles that used to confuse the holy heck out of me, that you walk hand in hand into heaven with your brothers and sisters, meaning everyone has to like wake the hell up and then everyone ascends and it's all great. This is saying something similar. And how I always framed it in myself was, that is why the conflict cannot ultimately be resolved until all parts of the sonship have returned. And what I've made up in my head about that is that what divides the sonship is my judgment of others. So the whole sonship is perceivable in my mind if I cease judging others. So how I look at it is, if I stop judging others, there is no separation. The sonship is whole. But the idea that everyone has to wake up in order to ascend makes no sense to me at all. And that's what it says. Only then can the meaning of wholeness in the true sense be. Can you go to the next page, V? Understood. Any part of the sonship can believe in error or incompleteness if he so chooses. However, if he does so, he is believing the existence of nothingness. The correction of this error is the atonement. But our individual parts to play in that, and maybe the next paragraph is going to clear that up. But I've always viewed it like it's impossible that everybody wake up at the same time. It is possible that I can stop judging and creating separation and incompleteness in how I view the sonship, and therefore I bring wholeness to the sonship and atonement to the sonship within myself. And I'm wondering if this is what it's saying. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
This world is for your creation, Gary. The way you view this world is the way this world is for you. So if you can view it in a way where you can accept everyone, then you are walking hand in hand, right?
Yeah, but then there's that fat lady at the pool. I'm not so sure. I am doing better with her. I only say, when I see her cart coming up with her outrageous children, I only say, oh, fuck, just once. I used to say it over and over again. That was just once. So I'm improving.
That's a bonus.
No, I'm telling you, you got to be authentic, gang, because, you know, we all have our flaws. You know, that one happens to be mine. And I'm working towards the atonement on that. Joe, you want to read the next one?
I have already briefly spoken about readiness, but some additional points might be helpful here. Readiness is only the prerequisite for accomplishment. The two should not be confused. As soon as a state of readiness occurs, there is usually some degree of desire to accomplish, but it is by no means necessarily undivided. The state does not imply more than a potential for a change of mind. Confidence cannot develop fully until mastery has been accomplished. We have already attempted to correct the fundamental error that fear can be mastered, and have emphasized that the only real mastery is through love. Readiness is only the beginning of confidence. You may think this implies that an enormous amount of time is necessary between readiness and mastery, but let me remind you that time and space are under my control.
I love that. That's quite hopeful, to tell you the truth.
I keep coming up with trust from this and from previous paragraphs that we read today. It's about trusting, taking action, and just trusting. Yeah. All the things going on in the world, and as you said, Gary, we just need to trust that this is all being taken care of by someone who truly unconditionally loves us.
And I think when we walk in that, there's a certain level of, what's the word? I don't mean this to sound exclusive, but a certain level of protection that happens for those who choose to walk this way. I just think if you are actively attempting to help others, that there's a certain grace that befalls upon you. And you're lifted up in times when you fall down, and you're carried across the river when you have no means to get across the river. And I think if you're in service, you're assisted. And that's why I think, V, especially for you in this next iteration of your business, if you take your mind off the service perspective of it, I think you'll be in fear. If you put your mind on the service perspective of it, and your communication with new staff is about installing the culture of service and all the things that go along with that, and you mean it from a perspective of well, I wouldn't say this to your new hires, but serving reflections of God in each particular new client or each existing client, that becomes a very different place to wield your business from, rather than a business of scarcity.
Yes, that's becoming clearer as we're reading through this today, actually. It's about how I'm trying to protect myself by just, by not kind of going all the way out there. But it's understanding that I'm being of service to them as well as my clients by having support come in. And it's also part of the community to actually be helping other people understand more about how to serve themselves and be more prosperous.
Yeah, because I've never had any financial training, and I don't handle money as well as I should. I should have been investing 30 years ago, and I never did, and I just didn't manage money as effectively as I could have. So people like you, V, are pretty priceless, actually, and a really essential part of the communities. So if I would have known half the things I probably would have been a way further along.
I'd be a happy camper if I started investing 30 years ago. That's when I was making my best money, really.
Yeah, I made good money back then too. But I decided after I lost it all that I could recreate it, because it's only energy, and there's nothing stopping me from creating it. The same talent that created it before can create it again. And so that's what I've decided to do. Yeah.
So where I'm at now, ground zero, starting all over again.
That's exactly right. And make it happen in a much bigger way than it did before. Do we have any questions about this? I love this one line that says, let me remind you that time and space are under my control. When it talks about the distance between fear and mastery. And, I'm going to go back to that old story from India that I've told you guys before. But by one glance of the master into my eyes, I ascended. And who would have thought that ever would have happened? I mean, I never would have thought that ever would have happened to me. And up to that point, I struggled to meditate. I couldn't control my mind. I was, pretty much in control while I was in India at the ashram. But, I also knew that I had all these temptations I didn't have handled or harnessed or anything like that. Just a normal kind of guy. And between that moment where I was hoping to be ready, and then being able to move to a state that like blew the circuits out for me, that happened in an instant. So then it is, in my mind, possible that when grace descends on you, it can change everything in a blink of an eye. Personally, I think that we should expect miracles like that to happen for us. Ask for them. Joe, you want to go to the next one? On the meaning of the Last Judgment. Seems that all the Christians are all up in arms about, it's Armageddon. It's like end of days. Let's read about the Last Judgment.
All right. One of the ways in which you can correct the magic miracle confusion is to remember that you did not create yourself. You are apt to forget this when you become egocentric, and this puts you in a position where a belief in magic is virtually inevitable. Your will to create was given to you by your creator, who was expressing the same will in his creation. Since creative ability rests in the mind, everything you create is necessarily a matter of will. It also follows that whatever you alone make is real in your own sight, though not in the mind of God. This basic distinction leads directly into the real meaning of the Last Judgment.
Do we have any questions about that paragraph? Because I personally don't, but someone else may.
Just like how it's just another way of stating that you are what you think. Actually, that's a reminder that sets off every morning at 7 a.m. Everything you think about, you bring about, or something along those lines. It's like a reminder every morning to wake up with my mind right and not allow those negative self-talk things to take over, and just keep myself in that positive mindset. Like it's another day in paradise. Even if it's not, it's another day in paradise.
All righty. Okay, so I'll go on to number 2. The Last Judgment is one of the most threatening ideas in your thinking. This is because you do not understand it. Judgment is not an attribute of God. I'm going to read that again. Judgment is not an attribute of God. It was brought into being only after the separation, when it became one of the many learning devices to be built into the overall plan. Just as separation occurred over millions of years, that's very interesting, the Last Judgment will extend over a similarly long period, and perhaps an even longer one. Its length can, however, be greatly shortened by miracles. The device for shortening but not abolishing time, it is a sufficient number between true miracle-minded. The shortening process can be virtually immeasurable. It is essential, however, that you are free from fear quickly, because you must emerge from the conflict if you are to find peace if you are to bring peace to other minds. Wow. This has a whole lot to chew on in this paragraph. This is the first time I remember the Course in Miracles referring to the beginning of time and the initial separation from God. And remember, the miracles are the identification as a soul, a spark of the divine, and have all other things you experience be a spark of the divine as well. Does anyone have anything they want to say about this? Or questions?
I'm hooked on that one line, just as the separation occurred over millions of years.
Yeah, I know.
The last judgment. Well, either way, I mean, that I'm just hooked on that, because I think like scientists only have clues of human remains for what, like 10,000 years, 15,000 years, something like that.
Well, in India, they say that
Maybe.
there were 3 ages. I don't know if I'll remember them all, but it was the Kali Yuga, which we're currently in, which is the age of the greatest level of darkness. There was the Golden Age, when I think it was more like the astral heavens, where people were awake, enlightened, no violence. And then I can't remember what the 3rd age was, or maybe it was 4 ages. I'll have to look that up. But we're designated into different ages, which last millions of years, each one of them. I think the planet and the civilizations on the planet are far more ancient than our history has embraced. I know I'm going to mispronounce this book, but it's the Mahabharata or the Mahabharata. I know I'm mispronouncing it, but it's an ancient Indian text that talks about flying machines, nuclear war between Shiva and the realms of another race, all in the sky. So it's all kind of alien related. And they talk about these nuclear wars, and it just so happens that there's an ancient city they cannot date in Iran, or is it Iraq? It's either Iran or Iraq, that it is so old they don't know how to date it, and it is completely radioactive.
Wow. Interesting.
Completely radioactive. So when you start looking at, what is the timeline of civilization? I think our civilization looks at a blink of an eye of how ancient this planet is, how old the cultures have been that have been here before in different ages of consciousness. We are just in the Kali Yuga, which is the darkest period of time. And I think we're here to wake people up. That's what I think. I think we're here to do the work in the Kali Yuga at the darkest period of time.
Whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished.
If you use that as your closing statement, I'm going to climb to this Zoom call and strangle you to the ground, because I'm going to use that as my closing statement. So you get to another one.
I'll let you have that one. I've got a different one in mind.
Okay, because I just thought Joey's got to take that. I just know he is.
Brilliant minds. What can I say?
I know, brilliant minds. Do we have any questions about this?
The only other question I have is, I've heard stories of the Last Judgment, but what is your interpretation of the Last Judgment?
For me, in my mind, My last judgment is when I live in the atonement all the time, and that is my last judgment. So I don't believe there's going to be this imagined, rapture that's going to happen, and people that didn't believe in the Bible will burn in hell forever, and people that did will ascend, and it's all going to be beautiful. And people that are ascending in heaven, they'll look back and go, nanner, 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 we told you so. Like, really? That is just not going to happen. But what I do know is that if in my world, when I stop the judgment, it's the last judgment. That's how I interpret it for me.
Stopping those judgments is pretty difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's about the choice not to see separation. And it is hard. I can do it for about maybe an hour a day. And then after that, other 23 hours, not so much. Okay, let me read number 3. The last judgment is generally thought of as a procedure undertaken by God. Actually, it will be undertaken by my brothers with my help. It is a final healing rather than a meting out of punishment. However much you may think that punishment is deserved, punishment is a concept totally opposed to right-mindedness, and the aim of the last judgment is to restore right-mindedness to you. The last judgment might be called a process of right evaluation. It simply means that everyone will finally come to understand what is worthy and what is not. After this, the ability to choose can be directed rationally. Until this distinction is made, however, the vacillations between free and imprisoned will cannot but continue. Well, we might want to do comments. We may want to read this one again when we meet up again, because it's 8 o'clock straight up, and I've got a client in 10 minutes. But I want to make sure that we come back to this one because I think it's kind of powerful. So, V, what is the one word or statement that you want to leave us with tonight?
My mind's a bit blank today.
That's okay.
Yeah. You said something earlier on about if you are in service, and then I forgot what you said after that. Do you remember?
I probably said if you're in service and you don't have fear, because
Okay,
you're not. Okay, good. Joey, what's yours?
Fear is really nothing, and love is everything.
Okay, that was pretty good. That was actually going to be my second choice if you stole my first one. So mine is whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished. So gang, this week, let's have light enter more of the darkness of our thoughts and let it be abolished. Get well. And if you guys could do some prayers for Robert's mom, she's hedging up on 94, and they've just discovered this massive cancerous thing on her back that's growing very rapidly. And she won't let it be, she won't have anything done to it, no radiation, no nothing, which means it's going to go into her bones. If it goes into her bones, she will die an excruciating, most painful death there is to die is bone cancer. So just pray for her that that when we bring in hospice, that they'll be generous and give her a cocktail that will put her to sleep and not to wake up. Or that she passes very gently and has her little heart just give out, because we won't be able to bear, and she does not deserve to die a horrible, painful death. So just a few prayers out for her. That would be awesome, that she transitions in a peaceful way.
Will do.
Okay.
Will do. And V,
Okay,
call it
gang.
an immune system upgrade. Don't call it an intake, it's an immune system upgrade.
Absolutely.
Change
So
that
we will.
vibration.
Where am I going to be then? August 1st. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be anywhere. Okay, I'm writing this down. Because my birthday's August 2nd and Tuesday's August 1st, and we were going to go somewhere, but I don't think we are.
And next week we're not meeting?
I won't be able to be here. You guys are happy to, meet up, but I want V to get some rest and get well.
Yes.
So the next time we see you, you will be vibrant and the goddess you've always been. Okay, you guys, you have a great one. Take care.
Bye, Ron.